When we think about the superheroes who got us through the COVID-19 pandemic, who comes to mind? Doctors, nurses, bus drivers, grocery store workers, and all the other essential workers battling the pandemic on the front lines. On the other hand, what comes to mind when I ask you to think about Gen Z and how they rode out the pandemic? You'd probably think of virtual classrooms, Fortnite, crazy shenanigans, and lots of TikToks. But what if one of these frontline workers was your next door Gen Z college student? Surprised? Well, then meet Grace Hung, the 19-year-old CNA who got an extraordinary start to her nursing career, fighting the COVID-19 pandemic head on. Well, welcome to the show, Grace Hung. Grace, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Well, so Grace, you are a CNA. Can you tell us what is a CNA? What do you guys do?
Okay, so a CNA is a certified nurse assistant. So honestly, we basically just tell us what the nurse delegates us to do and just assists like patients in like daily living activities, like going to the restroom, pretty simple things, but someone has to be there to do them, feeding patients, stuff like that.
So you're kind of the basic level of care in a hospital or a nursing home, assisting nurses to treat the large number of patients that they have in there, correct?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, that's great.
So you're like the bones of the hospital. So you started this career path or this job. What time? What year? What day? What month?
I started around like December, January 2020, I believe.
So January 2020, December 2019. And how old were you then?
I was 19.
Oh my goodness.
19.
Young girl. You did not know what was ahead of you. So for a baseline of describing, I really want to understand what are the conditions like pre-COVID, and then we can go into what changed. Because for the purpose of this interview, what I really want us to discuss is not a scare tactic, but just really from a frontline worker who is young, Gen Z, okay? What was it like? What did you have to deal with? So people can understand, number one, that all Gen Z weren't just sitting at home playing on TikTok all day. We were part of this fight. And number two, that this fight was very much real. So tell us, what was life like in the hospital pre-COVID?
Pre-COVID, hospitals, they're always busy. They're always going to be busy. But, just normal tasks that we were like taught in school, like CNA, in our CNA classes. So like nothing too like overwhelming, I guess. It's just like you were expecting it going in because you were taught those things in school. And I would say like the differences that after, during COVID, I would say, I mean, obviously the hospital was like over flooded. We had to like open up like the rooms that weren't usually meant for patient usage in our like unit. There were like patient visitor restrictions and stuff like that because we can't have like outsiders coming in too frequently or anything.
So what I found most interesting in our pre-interview call was that you said that the staffing and patient load was so immensely different. So pre-COVID, one staff member were for how many patients? Tell us that flow.
Typically, we would say like 7 to 8 patients is like the norm, I guess, for 1-to-1 CNA. So 1 to 7.
And then during COVID, how stretched were you?
At times, there were times when we would have like 1 to 12 or 11 or 1 to 11 to 12, and at times there was like times during like night shift, I would say more often, where there'd be like 1 or 2 CNAs working like the whole unit. And our unit has like around like 45 to 50 beds, I believe. So yeah, that's
so 1 or 2 CNAs for 50 beds. Oh my goodness. How was that managed? Like, how did that work?
Honestly, it's just everyone, like, especially like the nurses, they were like helping out a lot more with like CNA duties and stuff. So yeah, everyone just like chipped in a little bit extra, All the
and this wasn't the case just for your hospital. This was across the medical field. Why was this so drastic? Why was this so drastic?
I think just because of the the sheer patient overload, like all the COVID patients coming in, but also you need to take care of like the non-COVID patients, which was what our unit was for. And yeah, also like you can't really yeah. Some people did not feel safe working within COVID as well. So,
a lot of staff members left the field.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of like there's a lot of staff members who are also like high risk, you know, for COVID too. So yeah, for their own safety, which is power to them, you
They had
know.
to leave. So, like you said, you didn't work in a COVID unit primarily, but,
Yes.
excuse me, you did have to sub into COVID units from time to time. What was your first
Yes.
experience like going into the COVID
Oh,
unit?
absolutely terrifying. The first time I was sent to a COVID unit, it was so scary. I was like in my head going like paranoid, and it was like, yeah, yeah, very scary because you need to be like gowned up all the time too. So like you're sweating, and you're also like breathing heavy because you're nervous. Yeah,
And what was the feeling
and
and
I
the
think
sentiment that you got from the other medical professionals who were working there?
they were just like calm and composed the whole time, like throwing jokes at each other. Like it's just like a normal environment for them. I think that was so like jarring to me that like in this
Even
COVID
with all this
unit, like
pain and
I'm
craziness, that
so
they're still
scared.
able to be
Yeah.
humans.
Yeah, they're still like, yeah, able to like, you know, be happy, share joy with each other, and like, yeah, help each other out. Like it's pretty crazy.
So, how early into the pandemic had you gone into the COVID unit? You know, like what month did you take your first shift in there?
February, March, maybe?
Oh, that
March,
early?
April.
Of 2021 or 2020?
Probably 2020.
Oh,
2021, things
wow.
got a little bit calmer, probably, is what I'm
Okay.
thinking.
So, really, at the beginning of that pandemic, you were thrust into it. And even for the medical professionals who were assigned to the COVID ward, they weren't really completely used to it yet. So, when you got in there, what was the condition of the patients in the COVID ward?
In the COVID ward specifically, I would say most of the patients were non-responsive, meaning like they're unconscious, like I can't like talk to them and stuff like that. So yeah, we would just do basic care on them. Um, on our unit though, in the beginning, like beginning of the pandemic, our unit was kind of like we had like a couple COVID patients, um, and they were typically like lower risk, not showing as many symptoms people. So those COVID patients I got to actually like talk to a little bit. But in the COVID ward specifically, most of the patients were like unresponsive and stuff.
So, what was the death rate at your own hospital? Do you know that, or
I do not know that, and I've never personally seen a person pass from COVID. Yeah,
that's a
I
good
don't know the
thing we would
logistics.
say? Yeah. No, that's fine.
Yeah,
But that
I don't
said,
know if I want to.
to do. But I just want to get a little bit more understanding of when I say what the condition was. What were those patients suffering from? So you're saying they're unresponsive. What was causing them to be there? Were they on ventilators? What were they suffering from? You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. So usually with COVID, I feel like there's more like respiratory issues. So yeah, ventilators, stuff like that. Their oxygen levels are really low.
So it's
They can
like
have
it's
like
as if they're
fever.
suffocating to death slowly.
Kind of. I mean, I hesitate to say it because I'm not like a medical professional, but yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, awful. So
Yeah.
this said, you didn't see any COVID patients die, but you have been privy, I'm sure, to many passings just in general. What is that feeling you get? How do you react when a doctor comes to you and says, this patient's dying, all right? It's no longer life-saving care, and it's now pain prevention. What is that experience like for you? What is that experience like for the patient, and what is it like for their family?
Well, during COVID, I think hospice patients were like one of the few patients that were like given like access to their families, like they could have more visitors and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, I mean, we just tried our best to, provide them with like whatever they needed. But yeah, it's always a hard time for just the family and also like the staff and like, um, yeah, I don't know how to put it. Like the first time I saw a patient pass, it was a very like surreal experience, I think. Um, but over time you kind of get used to it, which is kind of the sad thing, but that's kind of what happens in medicine. Like you get desensitized to a lot of deaths and stuff like that, I believe.
Yeah, I just think truly, I'm not just saying this, you guys are heroes in the medical field because what would we do without you all? You know, I was with a very close friend when she passed away, and
Oh,
it was truly quite traumatizing to me. And I can only imagine, like you say, desensitization, but even still with that desensitization, It's got to be hard, especially when it's gruesome. Like for her, it was like they were trying to do the CPR to save her, and it was just compressions, and it was an awful last 10 minutes of life. Inspired, amazed, craving more? Hit that notification bell and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm always posting engaging, original content like this. And of course, smash that like button. So what is the craziest thing, switching gears, now something more fun, what is the craziest kind of silly thing you've seen happen in the hospital while you've been there?
I think our unit specifically has a lot of like mom figures, and they're really cute, but on like holidays and stuff they would wear like headbands with like Valentine's hearts and like Christmas antlers and stuff like that. And I think that was like just so, it's a little silly because you're in a hospital, but it's still really cute. And even they were like full on like done with like COVID gear, but you would still see like Christmas lights. Yeah, I think it's just a really heartwarming and like cute thing I see. Yeah.
I love it. So why did you become a CNA to begin with?
I just saw it as like my next step to becoming like a nurse. So I mainly just did it for like honestly academic purposes. Yeah.
Girl, you were thrown into the deep end right before COVID.
I know. Well, yeah, that was my main purpose was just to like get some experience, mingle with the hospital.
Make sure you
environment.
actually like the environment. That's important too.
Yeah.
So now that said, are you actually following up and doing medical school now?
I'm entering nursing school in the fall at UIC. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. My alma mater. Wonderful. So here's my question. If somebody wants to become a CNA or they want to become a nurse, they want to pursue this nurse in life, what can they do to prepare themselves for it, and how can they go about getting their first foot in the door?
For getting like a CNA license, it's like super, super easy. Just like I just took my CNA course at my local community college. So it was only like a 2 to 3 month course, meeting a couple times a week. Yeah, so you could just, register to be part of your community college or whatever institution. And yeah, it's pretty simple getting your CNA license. Please join us.
We need help. We need you.
Yeah,
wonderful. So then what type of person sitting at home, if they're like, I think I want to be a CNA, I think I want to be a nurse, what type of person would make a good CNA, would make a good nurse? Mentality, skills, interests, what's good?
Yeah, if you are quick to think on your feet and are resourceful, I think it would be really good for you to transition into the field of nursing. Also, I mean, if you like people, you have to love people to work as a CNA or nurse. You meet even your coworkers, your patients. You also need to communicate with all different parts of the hospital, all different types of people. And if you're like queasy, seeing like gross things like human bodily fluids and stuff like that, I would caution you. You'll
stay away.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let me just ask you this. I know you said you're not a medical professional, you can't give medical advice, but in your own opinion, from seeing those COVID wards, would you recommend people get vaccinated?
Yes, undoubtedly. I think, yeah, please get vaccinated. That's like, I think the only hope we have right now, honestly, to getting things like really back to normal. Yeah. Please get vaccinated.
Because you don't want to have to go back in next winter to the COVID ward and cover somebody who's out and have to deal with that. You don't want to have to see the people on the ventilator, see them passing.
Yeah, I think one of the most like disheartening things would be like when you're in a patient's room caring for them and they have like the news on the television and you just see all these statistics of like COVID cases rising and stuff like that. I think that was probably one of the more disheartening things you had to see as like a CNA or a nurse or any medical professional.
So Grace, what message do you want to leave with the world?
My message would be to please like educate yourself on COVID, educate yourself on all the different strains that are going on right now. Yeah, keep up to date with everything like that. And for the vaccine, if you're feeling skeptical about it, please look into that, no one's stopping you from actually learning about the vaccine and seeing what's in it and everything. That's what I did back when I got it all the way in January. And I would also say, like, take care of yourselves. mental health was a really big issue during COVID with everyone in isolation and dealing with like loneliness and separation and stuff like that. So self-care is super important.
So for you, it's that if you're hesitant about the vaccine, talk to people, get research for yourself, and find out, 'cause it's really detrimental. Not for Grace, but for your own life. And number two, for even those people who were vaccinated, take care of your mental and emotional health, because that's just as important as your physical health. Grace, I just want to say for the people sitting out there, they're looking at your sweet, beautiful face, all right? And they have the audacity to say, if I don't get a vaccination, all right, it's on me. It's not on somebody else. But I want you to look at Grace's face right now. Grace is the person you're affecting, and other millions of medical professionals around the country, just like Grace. Those are the people who you're affecting. Because if we get a resurgence of these cases from people who are unvaccinated, it's not going to be you who's just suffering. Fine, you might die and move on. But Grace is going to be the one stuck with the mental and emotional and physical toll of that stress of your illness, of having to take care of you, of trying to save you despite the fact that it's a very difficult uphill battle. And then inevitably, if and when you pass, Grace is the one who's going to have to deal with that, not you. So I encourage everybody, please, please, please do get vaccinated. Not for your own self, but for people like Grace, who are really the ones who are stuck with the consequences. People like your own families, who when you're gone are going to suffer. So thank you, Grace, for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure to hear from somebody who was on the front lines of this pandemic, and of somebody who is on the front lines and a part of our generation, Gen Z, fighting those front lines. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
I'm your boy Timo. Until next time, keep your smile side up.